What will happen if we don't do this?
It gives tax breaks for offshoring American jobs and offshoring American investment.
What do you tell the nearly 12 million people that are on the brink of losing access to Medicaid?
Today, we're plunging into a piece of legislation that's generating just a lot of buzz. It's called the Big Beautiful Bill.
Right.
There's so much chatter out there, so many strong claims, counterclaims flying around. Our mission, like always, is to cut through that noise. We want to look at the material we've gathered and get straight to the core facts. Okay, let's unpack this.
Exactly. And our goal here is really just to clarify the bill's actual provisions, what it's intended to do. We'll explore the different perspectives from the information we have.
Yeah.
We're here to help you understand what's truly at stake. We're not endorsing any view, just, laying out the ideas in the material.
Okay, good. And speaking of claims, something that's really grabbed headlines. This assertion from Senator Whitehouse. He suggested the bill rewards companies for offshoring American jobs.
It gives tax breaks for offshoring American jobs and offshoring American investment.
Now, that's a pretty big accusation.
It is.
And it definitely needs a closer look, doesn't it?
It absolutely does, because, well, what the material suggests the Big Beautiful Bill actually aims to do is quite the opposite.
Oh.
Proponents argue it's designed specifically to prevent the offshoring of American jobs.
How so?
Well, it tries to do this by extending existing tax cuts and, crucially, by permanently restoring something called immediate expensing for research and development, R&D.
Okay, hold on. For those of us maybe not deep in tax policy every day, what does immediate expensing actually mean? Like, in practice?
Yeah, good question. It basically means businesses can write off the entire cost of their R&D investments in the same year they spend the money, instead of having to, spread those deductions out over many years.
Right.
So the key thing to understand here, the insight, is how specific tax incentives like this, they don't just lower taxes, they fundamentally change the risk calculation for businesses. It makes big long-term innovation investing here in the U.S. much more appealing right from the start.
So the goal is keeping investment and jobs here.
Exactly. It's designed to incentivize domestic investment, boost American innovation, and keep jobs right here. It really shows that intricate dance between policy choices and where jobs actually end up being created or kept in the country.
That's a really important clarification on the jobs front. And speaking of clarifying things, misconceptions. Let's switch gears a bit. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent has been talking about Medicaid falsehoods.
Right. Secretary Bessent, he's been quite direct on this.
What's the clarification?
The Big Beautiful Bill, according to the material, it introduces work requirements, yes, but, and this is the key part, specifically for able-bodied Medicaid recipients.
What do you tell the nearly 12 million people that are on the brink of losing access to Medicaid?
That's not right. 1.4 million are illegal aliens. Able-bodied working people will need to go back to work.
The provision is aimed at encouraging self-sufficiency, getting people into the workforce. So the point being made is that it's not about some broad cut to Medicaid benefits for everyone. It's more of a targeted approach. And, it reflects that bigger philosophical question. Where's the line between a social safety net and incentivizing work?
Right, that classic debate.
Yeah. And understanding that distinction is pretty important for grasping the real goals and, the potential impact of these kinds of public assistance programs on individual independence.
Okay, so if that's what the bill aims to do, the offshoring prevention, the targeted Medicaid requirements, then what happens if it doesn't pass?
The flip side.
Yeah. Senator Mike Crapo warned about, I think he said, potentially catastrophic results. What does the material say about those specific outcomes? What are we talking about?
Senator Crapo did outline some very concrete consequences if this legislation fails.
What will happen if we don't do this? The average family of 4 would see a tax hike of $1,700, and their child tax credit would be cut in half.
He projects a potential $1,700 tax hike for the average family of 4.
Wow, okay, $1,700.
Yeah. And that's not all. On top of that, the child tax credit, it would be cut in half.
Cut in half.
And the death tax exemption, that would also be cut in half. And that impacts millions of family farms.
And just so we're clear, when we say death tax exemption, we're talking about the estate tax, right?
Exactly, the estate tax. Specifically, the amount of an estate's value that's protected from tax when the owner passes away.
So cutting that exemption in half.
It could have a really significant impact on family-owned businesses, farms, things passed down through generations.
Yeah, I could see that.
So these provisions, according to Crapo, are just critical for protecting middle-class families, for supporting overall economic stability. That potential $1,700 tax hike for an average family, plus those other cuts, it really it puts the direct financial stakes into perspective, for millions of Americans if these tax policies, these protections were just allowed to expire.
So this deep dive today, we really aim to give you, our listener, a clearer, hopefully more factual understanding of the big, beautiful bill by looking at its specific parts, addressing some of the claims swirling around it, all based on the material we examined.
Yeah, and that really leads us to, I think, an important closing thought for you, the listener. How critical is it, really, to dig into the details of laws like this?
Yeah, beyond the headlines.
Exactly. Beyond just the headlines and the talking points, how important is it to truly grasp the potential impact on your own life and, the broader economy? It's complex stuff out there.
It certainly is.
And understanding those nuances, makes all the difference.